Hey there guys, Farmman Official here and welcome to this Age of Empires 4 video. So today we're doing an English ram rush. We're going to be supporting the longbows with rams to go for a very aggressive attack. So as usual with the English, we're going to start off by queuing villagers in our town centre and we're going to get the 6 starting villagers to go to sheep. We take one of these villagers to build a house and then we're going to get the next 2 villagers that come out from the town centre to go to food. That'll give us to start off with 8 villagers on food. We take our scout, of course, to find any extra sheep that we can around the map. We want to find as many sheep as possible so that we can kind of delay our transition to the berries as much as possible. Okay, now that we've got 8 villagers on food, we're going to send the next 3 villagers to gold. Now, this build order is quite strong and strategy generally is quite strong because the longbows can be produced really fast from the council hall. The council hall is the landmark that we're going to use to age up to feudal age. Let's not forget as well, the longbows themselves have really good range, and with this build we're going to get a blacksmith pretty early on and get the steeled arrow upgrade. There is a way to also add in some spearmen in case you're up against a knight civilization, but if you have a decent mass of longbows with steeled arrow, you might not need to. And in this particular build order, we're not going to. We're going to go for a straight longbowman into ram rush. Okay, now that we've got 3 villagers on gold, we're going to send the next 20 villagers to wood. That's right, 20. So we really won't need to change the waypointing of our town centre for a very long time. Now, this particular build order works quite well against most civilizations. Just bear in mind against the French, which we are actually demonstrating here, you need to be careful and think about adding some spearmen, but as I say, if you get the build order right, you can actually probably get away with it as long as you get steeled arrow early on. So, at around about the 2 minute 30 seconds mark, we're going to look to build the council hall with 3 villagers on gold, and we are also going to build a house using one of the villagers that are building the council hall once we can afford it. We can't afford it just yet, of course we need the extra wood. And yep, you could hear the jingle for finding the sheep. That's perfect for us, that's exactly what we want. And we want to bring those sheep back home to the town centre. Okay, as you can see, we're building the house. And yeah, I mean, at this point, you can really just focus on your scouting pattern because, as we say, we're going to be getting a lot of villagers on wood now, so nothing really changes at this point. Okay, we're going to take our scout. Now's about the time you really want to know where your opponent is, because of course we want to be applying pressure, and it's always important to have good scouting to know where your opponent's resources are. Now, once the council hall is almost built, you want to take one of the villagers off to food. And the 2 villagers that are left building the council hall will go to gold again. Now, if you are considering to add in spearmen, you may actually want to take 2 villagers from the council hall to go to food. But it's usually a bit too early to preemptively do that because you don't necessarily know what your opponent is doing just yet. That is, of course, unless you see what your opponent is doing. You know, they could be going for the School of Cavalry as the French. So we'll keep going forward. We're pumping out longbowmen and we're going forward. We need to, of course, build houses as well. Don't forget that. Definitely don't want to get housed. And yeah, I mean, the aim here is now to get 20 on wood. At this stage, you'll have 9 villagers on food. You had 8 to start off with, of course, and we added that extra one from the council hall when it was building it. Okay, so far so good. So we were a bit late to scout our opponent. I mean, we kind of know where they are, to be honest, from the scouting pattern. But it's just quite handy to make sure you're active with your scout so you can find out exactly what your opponent is doing. As we can see, our opponent's going for stone, so that's actually a good sign for us because it means that they're probably a lot less prepared for defending an initial aggression, which is exactly what we're doing here. So we've taken our opponent off stone. Now they've got a stable, so of course they will be going for knights most likely. But we feel kind of confident here because we've got a decent number of longbows. 4 there is actually not enough, but we do have more coming. And so there we are. We've got a couple there to comfortably take a fight, maybe with 1 or 2 knights. But we just want to pile on the pressure and look for the villages that are on gold, which we've just found there. Because we want to take our opponent off gold if we can, forcing them to make horsemen instead of knights. And we've got more than enough to deal with that right now. So approaching 15 onward now, so a very decent number. And at some point we will refresh the lumber camp if we can afford to, but we want to actually try and prioritize getting that blacksmith as soon as we can. But we're going to continue producing longbows, of course. We don't really want to idle the council hall at all. And there's no indication here that we need to get a barracks for spearmen at all, really. Here we are. There's a knight up against us, but this is absolutely fine. We've got more than enough to deal with this. And with some decent micro, we can take that fight. No problem at all. Okay, we're really starting to mess up the longbows, which is exactly what we want to do. And the good thing about the build order is that because you've got basically the waypoint of the town centre to the wood, up until you hit 20 villagers on wood, you've got all this time to kind of look at the front of your, well, basically where you're fighting, the front lines. And you can micro really well with that because you don't have to really macro too much back at home. But once you do approach 20 villagers on wood, you're then wanting to send 4 villagers, or the next 4 villagers from the town centres to berries. Of course, we're going to build a mill. This is, of course, if we haven't already run out of sheep. If you have already run out of sheep, of course, you would have gone to berries already. But usually, you'd have enough sheep to be able to manage this. Okay, so it's at this point when you hit 20 on wood as well, you should be able to afford a blacksmith, which is good timing because you've got plenty of gold and we're going to go for the steeled arrow upgrade. Now, if you're up against player on a closed map, you may, instead of getting steeled arrow, go for the siege engineering. In case you want to go for rams early, because we're actually doing a lot of damage here, but on closed maps you never know, your opponent may have been walled up, so it's important to bear that in mind. But of course on a map like Dry Arabia we're usually going to go for the steeled arrow upgrade. So we've got steeled arrow coming in, and then shortly after that we'll be able to refresh the lumber camp, I'm sure, with the number of villagers we have on wood, and then we're going to get the siege engineering upgrade, of course. So what we do, we get up to 13 villagers on food. Of course, we've transitioned to berries now already. And once we've got 13 villagers on food in total, we're going to send the next 5 villagers to wood to get up to 25 on wood. That's absolutely plenty. And that'll give you enough wood to continuously produce the longbowmen from the council hall. We're building up a bit of a death ball now, and we'll be able to get plenty of rams as well. Just take this opportunity to discuss future plans for this build. You know, once you've hit 25 villagers on wood and you're constantly producing rams, I mean, you're probably putting a lot of pressure on, but then you can start to transition villagers to go to food and gold, to think about getting up to the castle age if you really have to, or additionally you may want to invest in a barracks for some spearmen. And so guys, that pretty much completes the build order. Hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, do give it a thumbs up as it really helps the channel. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more content like this. and hit the notification bell if you want to be receiving a ping of when I next release a video. Take care guys, and see you next time.